After two episodes discussing Hitler's rise to power, it is time to discuss World War II. Let's dive into the details. Hitler managed to defeat Poland in just 1 month, prompting Britain and France to declare war on Germany. This put Hitler in a critical position, with both France and Britain preparing for war. In April 1940, Hitler resumed the offensive by invading Norway and Denmark. Allied forces sent troops to Norway, but were unsuccessful due to Germany's air superiority. Hitler then launched attacks on the Netherlands, Luxembourg, and Belgium, which bordered France. France and Britain defended Belgium, but Hitler had a lightning strategy in mind. France left the Ardennes forest unguarded, assuming Hitler would not attempt an attack through such difficult terrain. Despite receiving reports of German forces gathering in the Ardennes, the French ignored them, but Hitler launched his assault through the Ardennes, and 4 days later, the Netherlands surrendered. Within 10 days, Hitler had encircled British and French forces, decimating some of their best troops, who then fled to Britain in civilian boats. Soon after, Belgium surrendered, allowing German forces to advance into France and eventually enter Paris. In June 1940, Italy joined the war alongside Germany, leading to France's fall under Hitler's control. Hitler believed Britain would submit after France's defeat, but this was not the case. Winston Churchill took power in Britain and immediately began causing problems for Hitler, starting with air raids on Berlin and then defeating the German Air Force over the English Channel. Consequently, Hitler and Italy turned their attention to the Balkans, capturing Yugoslavia and Greece by April 1941. Hitler then prepared to invade the Soviet Union. In June 1941, he launched an invasion, breaking the German-Soviet pact. With 3 million soldiers, Hitler unleashed the largest ground invasion in history, swiftly advancing through Soviet territory, trapping and decimating large Soviet forces, and reaching the outskirts of Moscow. However, winter set in, and the German troops struggled in harsh conditions. His officers urged him to halt the offensive, but he refused, allowing the Soviets to launch a counterattack that weakened the German forces and regained vast areas of territory. During this period, Japan entered the war in December 1941, attacking U.S. forces in Hawaii, prompting Hitler to side with Japan. Consequently, the United States declared its involvement in the war alongside the Allies. In May 1942, the British Air Force began launching massive bombing raids on German cities, bringing the war to German soil. At the end of the year, Hitler again attacked the Soviet Union, this time aiming to capture the Soviet city of Stalingrad and seize the oil fields in the Caucasus. The Germans were trapped on both fronts, and the Soviets launched a counterattack in Stalingrad. In February 1943, the German Sixth Army surrendered to the Soviets. Germany then attempted an attack on Kursk, which became known as the largest tank battle in history, but the Soviet forces halted the assault. From this point, the Allies, led by Stalin, Roosevelt, and Churchill, began achieving victories. In 1944, Allied forces landed on the shores of Italy. A popular uprising overthrew the Italian Fascist Party. Military leaders took power, and Mussolini was arrested. Italy negotiated surrender with the British and American forces, but the German forces in northern Italy continued to resist. In June 1944, over 150,000 Allied soldiers landed in France, fully liberating the country by the end of August. By September, American forces had crossed into Germany. In January 1945, the Soviet forces liberated western Poland. In February, the Allies bombed Dresden, Germany, killing around 35,000 civilians. In March 1945, American forces crossed the Rhine River. In April 1945, the Soviets launched a final assault on Berlin, surrounding the German capital and advancing from all directions with the Americans. After January 1945, Hitler did not leave his Berlin bunker, staying with his inner circle in a state of extreme mental exhaustion. In April 1945, he married Eva Braun in his bunker, appointed Karl Dönitz as head of state, and delivered his final message. On April 30th, 1945, Hitler said farewell to his remaining soldiers, entered his room with his wife, shot himself, and Eva took poison. Their bodies were burned as per his wishes before his suicide. In May 1945, Germany surrendered to the Allies. In August, the war in the Pacific ended after the United States dropped 2 atomic bombs on the Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, killing 120,000 civilians. Japan officially surrendered. Germany was subsequently divided into 2 parts, and Europe was left devastated by the war, with 2 Japanese cities effectively erased by the atomic bombs.